You know, the AI really hates my lack of hair.
Really no, I thought it would be good with your lack of hair. You know, I thought
no, it needs some because otherwise, look, it cuts everyone's hair off a little bit, but that doesn't matter. But in my case, it's cutting my head off. But it doesn't matter.
It looks very egg-shaped.
4 men in a wormhole!
Welcome to 4 Men in a Wormhole. This is Season 2, Episode 11, we think. And joining me, as always, is Tal Silverman. Hello, Tal.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Simon Cohen in the hat.
Good evening, Stephen. Good evening, boys.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to our listeners. They might not be in the evening. And hello, Mr. Leach, Adam Leach.
Hello, Stephen. When you said hello, Simon in the hat, I thought you were going to say Simon in the house. I think you were going to say Simon is in the house. Simon
in the house. Shout out.
Booyakasha.
Booyakasha. And for those of you who either don't care or have forgotten, which is potentially there's a similarity there. My name is Stephen Gurevitz, and I'm the everboarding host of 4 Men in a Wormhole. And we're going to shake things up a little bit for the rest of this season. And this show specifically is going to be dedicated on what we've been watching, not least because we've actually all been watching quite a lot. So in no particular order, let's go to a galaxy far, far away in a long time back, forth heads worth in history. Simon, do you want to talk about Obi-Wan?
Oh, is that what we're talking about? Obi-Wan.
Was it not clear? Was that clear?
I don't know. He was just sounded like he was talking nonsense. But yeah, we all watched Obi-Wan. Been waiting for this show for quite some time, and I found this quite satisfying. It obviously, just for those people that haven't watched it, which is probably not many of our audience, but it picks up about 10 years after episode 3 of Star Wars. So if you remember, at the end of episode 3, Obi-Wan Kenobi kills Anakin Skywalker, or at least he thinks he kills Anakin Skywalker, because we all know he turns into Darth Vader. We see Darth Vader from episode 4 onwards, but it picks up about 10 years on, where Obi-Wan is looking out over Luke to keep him safe, and it basically continues the storyline in a really, really nice way, in my view. And it's very clearly a continuation of the storyline. Right at the beginning, it actually says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which wasn't done in Boba Fett and wasn't done in The Mandalorian. So they're sort of setting the scene. This is part of the main story. And they even do a flashback of all the Anakin, Obi-Wan stuff in episodes 1, 2, and 3. So there's a proper continuation of the story. And I wouldn't say directly leading into episode 4, but sort of tying up the gap between those two shows.
That little flashback bit at the beginning was actually really, really well put together. It made it made those first 3 actually look half decent, which was quite a challenge.
It did. But it was I don't know what you guys thought about that show. And I'm sure you're going to tell us in a second. But I found myself after a couple of episodes wondering if it was good or not. Like, I was enjoying it, but I wasn't sure if I was enjoying it for the nostalgia and the characters, or whether it was genuinely a good show like The Mandalorian is. And it took me till probably towards the end of the series to realise that actually it was a good show. I was really enjoying it. The storyline was good. The character development was good. And I think it finished off really nicely as well. So that's my view.
Adam?
Well, I go into this always as thinking of myself as not a Star Wars fan. But I have just noticed that the Star Wars series that they've done, that Disney have been doing, I've actually really enjoyed all of them, and I've actually sort of enjoyed them perhaps even more than the Marvel series. And I've got this kind of weird upside down thing where I seem to not really enjoy Star Wars movies, but I've been really enjoying the TV series. And with Marvel, I seem to really love the movies and don't really like the TV series. So I sort of went into it as I don't really care too much about, I know where it sits, I don't care too much about it, but I really enjoyed it. I just thought it was really good. And I know there was lots of, I thought actually not being a fan helped me enjoy it. I saw so much on Twitter of going, well, Obi-Wan would never have kind of drawn his lightsaber while he was walking through Tatooine and gone left at the petrol station, because we know, you know, all this kind of Star Wars lore that seemed to get in people's way of just, oh, okay, well, I know the characters, and that's, you know, little Leia, and that's little Luke, and it's a good, and it was a good story. So yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I didn't let any of the other thing kind of get in the way of that.
Excellent, Tal.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I am agreeing with both of you. I actually did also really enjoy it. I thought when it first started, I did think I was going to struggle with the fact that obviously it's very limited in its scope because of the whole fact that we know what came before and what comes after. And there is that side of things, whereas obviously, you know, certain characters aren't going to die and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The thing I found, I thought was really, really good. The thing I struggled with a little bit was just that whole thing of like, there was just seemed like there was one too many episodes where they would like, it would nearly get him and nearly get Obi-Wan, and then they just get away, and then nearly get Obi-Wan, and they just get away. And I kind of thought they were just going to do that for the whole series, and they did. I mean, they didn't in a way, because it did sort of, they did fill it out a little bit more than that. But it was, yeah, they were a bit limited in terms of what they could actually do, because the fact that you kind of always know what's going to happen. But from my point of view, if I had to, I know a bit early to rate them, but I guess we might do this near the end of the conversation. So, but I personally think that I feel that The Mandalorian was my favourite, followed by Obi-Wan, followed by Boba Fett. So that's my kind of order of things in terms of what I think. But yeah,
I think I'd agree with that.
I have to say, I thought the show did some really clever things, such as at the beginning, as Simon says, Obi-Wan didn't know Anakin was still alive, but the audience does, because at the end of the third movie, you see Anakin become Darth Vader. So that was actually a really clever ploy, because we all know, and and we're waiting for him to find out. So that was a moment in itself, and that was a really easy moment to create, just by making him not aware that Darth Vader and Anakin are the same people. It was interesting they decided to focus on the Leia and Luke and the way that he's meant to be protecting them, because they could have just gone on and done a story about Obi-Wan who leaves Tatooine for a couple of weeks and goes off on some random quest. So it was actually quite brave, I thought, for them to bring Leia and Luke into it, because actually it creates more problems potentially. So I thought that was kind of good. There was a couple of bits which you get in all these TV shows where you just go, that makes no sense. And I don't mean the Force and science, and I just mean like in the scene where they escape from that planet in a spaceship, and Darth Vader and trick Darth Vader. And by the way, that bit with Darth Vader putting the spaceship down is cool. And there was a few moments in this series where they clearly did Easter eggs from the video games. If you don't play the video games, you don't know the Easter egg. But that was an Easter egg where someone using the Force brings down the spaceship. But where did the spare spaceship come from? It was all.
But you always should have a spare spaceship.
Always,
I mean,
always.
you know, don't be caught with just one. Take one
exactly.
spaceship into the shower. No.
Yeah, but what wasn't there to before? Suddenly it's there. So, but I thought it was fantastic, and I thought the last episode was almost Shakespearean. I thought the emotion was all there. I thought it came together really beautifully. They even did do a little thing to get them out of jail about Leia, because remember when R2-D2 goes to Obi-Wan or Old Ben, she sends a message saying, there's a message saying you fought with my father in the Clone Wars. She doesn't say, hey, do you remember me? Remember that adventure that we went on? Yeah. So they're cleverly, the very end of this episode, the last episode, he does say to her, we can never speak about this.
Yeah.
And I thought about that bit as well quite a lot, because as Leia came into the show, I was so like, well, hang on a minute, she doesn't act like she knows him, and yeah, they absolutely tied that off. But it's interesting if you remember back to that hologram, that message, the final part of that message, she sort of looks to the left, which we find out in Rogue One is because the bad guys are coming. She looks to the left and looks back, and suddenly she's a bit more informal. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. Like suddenly it's there's a little bit more friendship in there because she's suddenly desperate and needs his help. So I thought that was quite clever. And couple of other things that they tied up quite nicely was the when Anakin says you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did. And obviously we know in episode 4 that Obi-Wan tells Luke that Darth Vader killed his father. And then there was one other thing that was that I thought was quite good, which was the way that the Emperor puts Darth Vader in his place at the end, like, stop worrying about Obi-Wan Kenobi, get on with your work, because obviously we know that he doesn't go chasing after Obi-Wan Kenobi. In fact, Obi-Wan Kenobi comes to him in episode 4, and it's sort of Obi-Wan, we meet again. So I thought it was very clever the way that they tied up those pieces, and in a way even explained some of the things that happened in episode 4, which was written whenever it was 50 years ago. I thought it was very nicely tied together.
Yeah, Adam?
I was just going to say that the girl that played young Leia, Vivian Lyra Blair, thought she was brilliant. I thought she was amazing at the role. I also thought Moses Ingram was great, and I feel like I also have to say that because there's been, if you've seen on Twitter or but there's so much ridiculous racism and hate directed at her for reasons which entirely escape me. So I feel I think she did a great job and did a great, believable, interesting character in that. So just felt I had to kind of call that out.
I thought they were both good. One thing I will say, it was interesting because I've just finished watching The Matrix. There's in the 4th one.
Oh yeah,
there was a parallel with the whole. He didn't have his powers. Obi-Wan had essentially abandoned the Force, and then with each episode he remembers how to do stuff. So by the time he gets to that climactic fight, essentially back to how he was in the original first 3 movies. And I thought that was kind of cool. But just an interesting thing I read on the internet is actually the TV series was written as a film. It was written as the first of 3 films. But when Disney then, after Solo, decided to stop making films, and
it was a film.
It got re-engineered into this TV show. So there is talk of a second season, obviously, even though there's no confirmation and everything. The point is the plot lines are already in existence for them if they want to go all the way. Tara, you've got your hand up.
I don't think they should do a second season. I just don't know what else. And I'm sure that, they'll always find something, but I think it'll go back. It will just end up, like you say, I think it might just end up a bit of a random quest. Because we know that, because the gap between the ages of Luke kind of at the end and the age he ends up in episode 4, it's obviously a much narrower gap. So they can't bring those. I don't think they could have Leia or Luke in, unless they do it. But it's obviously got to have Obi-Wan in because it's the season. So it's got to follow Obi-Wan. And I think so. Then he just ends up doing some random thing that I don't think.
Well, there are other stories, but there are. If you play the video games, and these shows clearly are linked into the canon of the video games. The whole Inquisitors and all of that come from the video games as well as the cartoons. So, for example, in Fallen Jedi or whatever, I can't remember what it's called, but it was a great. I remember if you recall, I was telling you at the time, if you wanted a Star Wars story, it was a great thing to watch, and I'm sure you can just watch the cinematics on YouTube. There are lots and lots of Force-aware children in the galaxy who are in effect being hidden.
Yeah, they're alluding to that, aren't they? And I know they've got all that. I don't know. I just think the characters are so big. I just think that they'll just end up doing something that just wouldn't live up to it. I don't think. I think this was a really nice piece. I just think it would just be. I don't know. I'd like to be proven wrong, but
Well, you want to avoid what they did with Boba Fett, which was get halfway through making a series about Boba Fett and then going, "Oh, this is no good." But do you know what is good? The Mandalorian. Let's do the Mandalorian. It's kind of what they did halfway through Boba Fett. But yeah, I kind of agree. It was neat. I don't know. I kind of agree with you that it might get a bit random. Yeah. They tied everything off so neatly, as Simon said, of those things.
But the point I'm making is it's already been written, and it has been written as a 3-parter. So it might not be a case of what should we do. They've already
they have it there already.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean it'll be good. But the point is, it's not just it was successful. Let's do another one. What should we do? It's a case of they got the storyline. The question is whether they should. As Jeff Goldblum says in Jurassic Park, Pete, if you forgot to ask yourself whether we just because you could, whether we should, or words to that.
Well, I think if they keep with the Darth Vader Obi-Wan kind of dynamic, I will get bored of it in terms of because it will become.
Yes.
He chases him, he gets away. He chases him, he gets away. He chases him, he gets away. You know, it's like I just think I just don't think there's that much they can do with those two to carry on. I think there's just not enough space within.
They've painted themselves into a corner now.
Yeah. Will they call the next season OB2 Kenobi?
And on that,
no, you got to cut that, Stephen.
No, don't cut that. That's the best joke you've ever made.
On that bombshell, let's move on. So, talking about a bunch of lads making bad jokes, Adam, Tal. Actually, no, I'll go to Tal based upon his background. Let's talk about The Boys.
Yeah,
The Boys. So season 3 is out now. It's not finished. It's actually on episode 6. I think there's still 2 more episodes to go. I just watched episode 6 the other night, and it's because it's out weekly. They're releasing it weekly. So yeah, there have been 3 seasons. For those who haven't seen it, you know, hopefully most people have, because I mean, I think I would highly recommend it. It's basically a sort of anti-superhero story. The superheroes essentially are baddies, and there's a kind of guy that's got a grudge against the superheroes, who's William Butcher character, and he's kind of trying to essentially bring down the superheroes and expose them. They're essentially in it for their own kind of fame and popularity, the superheroes, but they're all pretty much a nasty bunch of characters. Very gruesome, lots of nudity and sexual references, lots of people getting killed in very gruesome ways, but it's brilliant. I think it's great. I'm really pleased they're doing it, and they've just announced that there's going to be a season 4 as well, which is great because I think it's just to show that they can just keep running and running. The characterizations are brilliant. Season 3 has become very political. I mean, they all are to some degree, but it's interesting because they're based on a set of comic books originally, and the comic books were from the George W. Bush era. So I think the original comic books, I haven't read the original comic books, but I think they also had a political element that was, you know, obviously they've kind of brought it up to date more. And, you know, as I don't know whether it would be a spoiler to say that, you know, Homelander is kind of the main evil super villain who is kind of the most powerful, has the most powers and is the strongest, is kind of the most devious and evil. And he's very much a Trump character. They are trying to sort of paint him as essentially, and they've kind of done stuff that is very much a direct reference to kind of how Trump has been perceived. I think they've lost some of their fan base in America because of that.
I think the thing that I'd say about it is that the Anthony Starr who plays Homelander is just the star of it. I mean, the first two series were great, and he was great in it. But now in season 3, he's just brilliant. He's phenomenal. The whole thing is about how power corrupts, and that if you did have superheroes like kind of Marvel-esque, how that power would really go to their head and what it would really do to them. And it's about basically saying that it would corrupt them, and
they're just as flawed as humans in that sense. You know, they are normal humans, I guess.
Yeah, and they've got the frailties, and that's the thing with Homelander is he's got this enormous physical strength, but he's just really feeble-minded. But the way that Anthony Starr plays Homelander is terrifying. Honestly, and he does it with a smile on his face. So he smiles, and he's got a smile like it's sort of like watching like Chris Evans do Captain America. It's just like effortless and cool. But then there's this. He just then drops the smile all of a sudden, and you just get this evil look. It's just
absolutely
how he does that.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I think they've got great script and great story. The characterizations are brilliant. I mean, all the characters are great. The Homelander character is he's something very special. I mean, he's obviously a complete psychopath. Yes, Stephen.
But this series also has got their anti-Captain America in it. What's his face from Supernatural?
Yeah,
Soldier Boy.
Soldier Boy. I always thought that Homelander was a sort of cross between sort of Captain America and Superman. But yeah, they've brought in this character that is basically Captain America. You know, he's even got a shield and stuff. And
Soldier was around 40 years earlier and stuff. And
has disappeared for 40 years or whatever. So yeah, I think it's more obvious that is Captain America, than Homelander. But it's But the other, it's kind of interesting your background there with Carl Urban playing William Butcher as the main character. But really, for me, it's all about the Homelander.
I mean, the Carl Urban's funny. He's
great in it.
He is brilliant, and actually, it's funny because the first half of the first season, when I was watching it, obviously I had to get past his accent. But do you know what? Actually, now I just really
say that after not mentioning that about Ewan McGregor in Obi-Wan.
Yeah, of course.
And you're going to mention Carl Urban's.
I actually thought Ewan McGregor actually did tone down the Alec Guinness a little bit in Obi-Wan. Actually,
did he?
But a little bit. I mean, he's still.
It came and went. It came and went. Sometimes he had it.
But yeah, I mean, but I think the Cockney character of William Butcher is just. The fact that his accent isn't perfect, it's like actually it doesn't really matter because it is just he's just a great character and he does do it very well and he's consistently bad with his accent and that kind of helps I think to get past it. Yes, Stephen.
But he's Australian anyway, so he's not a million miles away from.
Yeah.
Not a million miles away from Cockney, no, but a couple of thousand miles away from Cockney.
Yeah. And the thing about Homelander and Butcher, they're such. Both of them are such great characters and great actors that I'm not saying that the show is all about them and that the rest of the cast isn't good. But when either of them are in a scene, you just know it's going to be a good scene. I mean, they're both amazing.
And what I really like as well is that going back to what we were saying about you sort of seeing all everyone's flaws. Obviously it's not just a case of like the superheroes are bad and like the William Butcher's band are goodies because they're almost just as despicable, and they'll go to any lengths, a lot of them, and it's interesting to show how ultimately kind of their quest is kind of good because it's like trying to bring down the ultimate evil, but actually they do it in such a sort of kind of no holds barred way that you kind of think, well, actually you shouldn't really be agreeing with anything they're doing, or
It reminds me a bit of Blade Runner. I just had this moment just as I was thinking about it, because Blade Runner is all about kind of, he's got his humanity, at least before the director's cut. And, it's about him acting less human to catch these people that are supposed to be less human, but they act more human, like Batty actually acts more human. And I think there's a bit of that dynamic in The Boys, and then that Carl Urban starts off as just a guy, but now it's sort of, there's no spoilers, but there's kind of, he gets some powers and becomes more super-like or superhuman.
Playing at their own game, sort of thing.
And then it becomes who's worse, as you say. And I think there's that.
I did enjoy Seth Rogen's cameo in it. It was his brief appearance because he's the showrunner for The Boys, so I quite like the fact that he was in that episode.
Do you think a show like this would have worked like 15 years ago?
I think that's a good question. I think the having Marvel as a context of it, I think it makes it work because you kind of go to those characters and you think, well, what if they were real people and how would it really alter the world?
I know it isn't the same, but when was Kick-Ass out originally? Because that was kind of the first.
I've watched this recently, but I was told I wasn't allowed to talk about Kick-Ass because
we'll talk about it later.
But Kick-Ass was 2010. Okay. So it was sort of just at the start of the MCU. We had some MCU movies, but it wasn't in full swing.
So it's because that was interesting. Obviously, that was quite a kind of similar, not a great similar concept, but it's that interesting that they it's the whole failed superhero type idea.
Yeah.
Simon,
I think that the superhero genre has evolved, right? It's become far more accepted thanks to the success of the Marvel movies, and so it's almost like, well, we know superheroes work. We know that the most popular movie ever was Avengers Endgame, and so it's hit the masses, and then they can afford to start bringing in sort of the niches within the genre because actually it's such a wide audience.
Well, I think Charlie Brooker has said that. He's probably about 10 years ago, probably very before we would ever have thought of it. But he did say, I remember at the time, he said every movie will be a superhero movie. You'll have love stories, but there'll be superhero movies, or there'll be action movies that are superhero movies. And we're absolutely seeing that now with the MCU. Brooker was just there way before us.
The point is, all of the people watching this are relatively niche audiences. But if you've got a global niche audience, all watching the same thing, it's huge. But if you were to put this on terrestrial TV on a Saturday night, it would not be able to meet Saturday night takeaway, right? But globally, the audience is massive, and streaming allows you to find a place where you can bring them all together. And I think that's what's made this up. So I think this would have happened whether MCU happened or not. But my point is I think streaming has allowed this.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I don't disagree with you about the streaming, but I think that you.
This is like the characters, the
Well, no,
positioning
I mean,
of the boys.
if superhero movies was and TV shows was a niche before, I don't think you would have gone and made such a niche within a niche, right? So this show is adult and violent, and you're immediately eliminating a large audience, which is traditionally the base of
but
children, teenagers, superhero movies. But the base is far wider now, so they can.
No, I understand, but what I mean is you would have had lots of different superhero shows. So I'm not
that
saying
would have happened anyway.
I'm not saying you need the Marvel Avengers big movies to make this happen. I'm meaning streaming was enabled. That's why they brought Star Trek back. Streaming has allowed all these kind of sci-fi, fantasy, and whatever shows.
Well, we've always had. There's always been there have been lots of superhero shows. We know there's been lots of versions of Superman and Batman and Smallville and Supergirl and all this stuff existed, but none of it was adult and violent. And in the last few years. Actually, this is probably about 4 years old. I'm not sure, but in the last few years, we've had The Boys, we've had The Umbrella Academy, which came out at about the same time, which is also back on Netflix, and I'm really enjoying.
I was going to mention that because sorry, I'll let you.
So again, it's an adult theme.
That's a trend in TV. I think if it move away from superheroes for a minute, you take any remake of any genre. Like if you're going to do a remake of Hawaii 5-0 or remake of anything, or take Battlestar Galactica, what do you do nowadays? Any remake, you make it darker, grittier, sexier, quite literally darker in terms of the way you film it.
Only if it's Batman.
You often inverse characters. I'm just saying, I think this is just a general trend in TV in general, and stuff that was a lot lighter and happier nowadays gets more dark and vicious, and they like to put a twist in it. So I think it's the ultimate conclusion of where TV is getting to, is that everything is darker and twistier. And
on that subject, has anyone actually seen The Boys Diabolical? The Boys Presents Diabolical.
No, I've seen that come up, but like, is it a cartoon?
Yeah, it's a cartoon. I think it's about 8 episodes. I haven't seen any of it yet, but I've watched the trailer for one. And it's basically made by the people that do The Boys, but it's also made by the people that do Invincible.
Oh, so, you mentioned that was the cartoon you.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see it because I've really enjoyed Invincibles anyway, and it's very similar to The Boys. It's kind of corrupt superheroes. So I think it's basically, and it's great because actually, from what I've seen, or the clips I've seen, they can actually make it even more violent and even more offensive because it's animated than they have from this.
Oh,
so yeah, they've really pushed it. So
I have to say you mentioned the Umbrella Academy there. I mean that has also, I think, gone from strength to strength. We're in season 3 now. I really enjoyed seasons 1 and 2.
I'm only watching season 1 at the moment. We're literally about 5 or 6 episodes through season 1 at the moment. So so
it's really good. It's really good, but season 3 is brilliant, and I'm just loving it. I love the. I spoke to a friend of mine who was like, "I don't like alternative superheroes." I'm like, "Well, you're missing out on The Boys and the Umbrella Academy. You should check it out."
Are we going to talk? I know we're not talking about that specifically, but just a very quick question. That's the first season of Umbrella Academy. It's interesting seeing the Loki comparisons because I didn't know about that, like the fact that it is essentially Loki with the whole time.
Oh right, yes, there is But all of the series,
the film,
all of the series have time travel. I mean, time travel is like a major part of each of the series and what they do. It's all about traveling in time. And there's a bureau that watches and
amazing
polices and all of that as well. Yeah. I didn't think of that when watching Loki, but
it's a really direct link. Actually, it sort of feels very much like the same kind of south. Anyway, Stephen.
Also, just to run up, I think it is interesting if you look at the DC and Marvel cartoons, as in the comic books. They've done all their happy years. I think ever since the 80s or 90s, they've been, again, it's the same as TV. They've all been reinventing the characters, and all of them get darker and grittier, and the anti this and the anti that. So I just think it's a general trend, and so this is the natural endpoint of that trend.
Yeah, we could almost segue into Doctor Strange 2 from that, couldn't we? Because Doctor Strange 2 was a bit more adult, a little bit more adult than it was the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go into Doctor Strange because I think that is a good segue. Tal, you've started. You might well continue.
Oh, okay. Well,
Be our doctor.
I only saw it for the first time. Well, I've only seen it once, but I only saw it this last week actually. So I was a bit late to the party. Although I was really pleased to see it was free on Disney Plus because obviously Black Widow I think was on sale for longer. I think as a potentially before it became free. So I think this was quite nice to see it so quickly become stream for free because. Nice not to have to pay for it, but we all sat down and watched it as a family. It's interesting because I think on Disney Plus it says it's a 14 plus, which is unusual. But obviously in the cinema, I'm assuming it was still a 12 because otherwise it would have been a 15, and I don't think they would have made it a 15. So that was my reasoning for letting my well, she's actually 10, so it's a little bit under still. But there you go, watching it. But we all watched it, and actually she was fine with it, although. There is obviously a lot of
gruesome bits,
where the Doctor Strange comes back, brings him back to life and everything, with the skull poking out and all that stuff. There's some really grim stuff, but I did really enjoy it. Did I enjoy it more than I thought? Yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling a little bit with some of the more mystical ones. I mean, I enjoyed Shang-Chi, but I think that was more because I enjoyed the characters than necessarily the content. Like I just like the kind of slightly more comedic aspect of the characters and stuff. Whereas obviously this not having that, I just felt it was. I mean, I like the fact that it tied in with What If, and I like the fact that it had that link. I thought that was quite clever. They dealt with the multiverse quite well, but yeah, I don't know.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It was sort of like one of two main Marvel releases this year in the cinema. We've got this, and then we've got Thor: Love and Thunder. So I went and saw it at the cinema. I didn't think it was great, but my boys really loved it, and I kind of enjoyed the whole experience of it. I'm really bored of the whole Wanda missing her boys, and I really didn't like WandaVision, and then this whole story, we didn't really get a kind of new storyline. It's sort of like eking out this one storyline that we know. So I found that a bit frustrating, but overall I thought it was entertaining.
Yeah, I was disappointed by it. Like I think I was expecting another big movie like the last Spider-Man movie or an Avengers movie, in that we knew there were going to be lots of characters, and we knew there was going to be a lot of cameos. It had the potential to be massive, I think, and it just wasn't. I agree with what you say, Adam, in terms of the storyline. The storyline was weak, and the dialogue was just a bit weird in places. I think there were a lot of gifts in there for the fans.
Yeah, my kids actually really enjoyed having Xavier in there and stuff.
Yeah, fan service. There's a lot of fans.
Yes, exactly.
In the film.
They got probably excited about that. But the thing is, for me as well, I think maybe, I don't know, for that. Although maybe because I knew that most of those people were in it, when they were in it, obviously their actual role was kind of a bit negligible. And actually,
we didn't know all of them though. We didn't know all of them because I think we only really knew that that Patrick Stewart would be in there as Professor X. But the one that surprised me the most, I think, was Black Bolt. Because I'm
very comical.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm probably I was probably the only person in the cinema that had watched Inhumans and the whole series, and then to see him in there, given that that wasn't a popular show, it seemed a bit strange he was there. But I do like him.
He did seem that character to me, not knowing that he was in some other Marvel character, not ever reading the Marvel comics, and not really knowing, but he did look like something straight out of The Boys. I thought it's just like Black Bolt could have joined the Seven. Black Bolt is the latest member of the Seven, and you would have gone, okay.
Weird helmet, weird character. He doesn't dress like that. He doesn't look like that in Inhumans. He just doesn't. I don't think he wears a costume at all. But you know who that is? Who that actor is, right?
No.
Captain Pike.
Yeah.
But I don't. Sorry, I don't.
It's Anson. What's his name? Anson Mount, is it?
Yeah, from Strange New Worlds and Discovery when he took, but it's from the Enterprise.
Captain of the Enterprise in Discovery.
In season 2.
Oh, okay. Right.
It's him. That's him. Who plays Black Bolt.
Oh,
Is
okay.
Humans worth watching? I can't remember.
No.
Yeah.
We can deal with that quickly.
I'd sort of seen it knocking around, and I'd managed to avoid it and thought, didn't really think it was worth watching.
So going back to Doctor Strange,
Yeah,
the Illuminati, though, are they just not the most rubbish bunch of superheroes in the history of superheroes? They're like, everyone's so excited, all the fan service, and they just get annihilated like a bunch of chumps. Sorry, spoiler alert, but they are really rubbish.
Well, at least we got to find out who would win in a fight between Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange, because that was, I think we did cover that. I think that was maybe one of our.
Really? Did we do that? What did we say? Did we say Strange?
I think we did. No, I don't know. I think we might have actually said Scarlet Witch, actually. But
I do know is that I was reading on the internet, is the only person to have defeated Wanda is Hawkeye. So he actually
love Hawkeye.
They should put him in the Illuminati, shouldn't they?
With his little
well, yeah, but he is the best. I love a bit of Hawkeye. The fact that the non-superhero. It's just
yeah. I digress a little bit, but I still think his TV series with his co-star, you're playing Kate Bishop. I thought it was great fun.
Yeah, it's
my favourite. My favourite one, I think. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, maybe the Christmassy theme as well, which they were able to play off. But I thought the whole thing, they got the tone just right. But he is the most powerful Avenger we've seen.
I really hope, so this is a digression, Stephen, but when we were waiting between Infinity War and Endgame, when Infinity was in the cinema, because Infinity War, Simon will quote me if I'm wrong, I don't think has Clint Barton in it.
No,
he's not in it at all. And there was a lot of people, me included, who were just hoping Endgame was just going to be the return of Clint Barton and he was going to single-handedly take on Thanos. That's what I was hoping Endgame would be. Just him on his own with his bow and arrows taking on Thanos. But anyway, I wasn't disappointed, but it wasn't to be.
So as we drift into the evening here at this time of recording, I think it's right that maybe we talk about another Marvel character, the Moon Knight.
Let's do it.
Simon, I know you got thoughts on this.
I do.
Moon Knight.
Tell me, Simon, did you enjoy the TV series known as Moon Knight?
That's the one with the English guy with multiple personalities who, yes, I did enjoy Moon Knight. It's really good.
Actually, he turns out to be an American guy.
An English person.
No, I'm talking about the character was English. Well, actually, there was multiple personalities.
No,
they weren't. With an English split, with an English.
Maybe I'm not the best person to answer this question.
Have you seen it, Simon?
I've seen it. I really liked it. Let's move on.
This I think was my favourite Marvel series. I haven't been a big fan of them so far, and I really like Moon Knight. I really like Moon Knight. The fact that it wasn't really connected with the rest of the MCU, and I found that quite refreshing. There was no, Moon Knight in the blip, he was doing this, and he's come back after 5 years, and what was he doing with Thanos? There was just none of that. It was just, here is a different story, origin story of a superhero. And
it was a good story, well done. I like the effects as well, but I don't know. For me, I just found that maybe. I don't know. I just felt the way they dealt with the Egyptian gods and stuff. I just don't know. I think they could have done more with those characters a bit more. And I just feel that I don't know. For me, I think it was probably about sort of third on my list of sort of top ones. I think. I don't think it definitely wouldn't be up there for me. But
the bit that's really sold it for me was when the fact that he was a Londoner. I know you're saying that he wasn't. The actor's not. He's actually American. But there's a scene in episode 1 where he ends up in a German village and he doesn't know where he is, and he knows something's going on, and they're all praying or they're all listening to the one person who's called Harrow, isn't he? The character's Harrow, who is like. And then he gives a command, and everyone who's sort of around him, bends down and bows down. And he's not quick enough, and he doesn't realise quick enough that everyone's bowing down. And suddenly he's just standing there, and everyone's looking at him, and he just says, oh bollocks, and it's just the way he does that. He did it. It was really subtle. I just thought it was really like what a Londoner might do in that situation. I love that.
But he's quite an endearing character, I think.
Yeah.
And you're with him on a journey, and I like shows like that where there's a bit of mystery, and you're kind of you're discovering what's going on with the lead character. And it just evolved quite nicely as a show. So
it was very original. It was definitely very original. Apart on top of the fact that, like you say, it's a standalone thing. It's very different to anything that we've seen in Marvel in terms of those characters. So I think from that point of view, I guess it's a tick. It'll be interesting to see. Actually, almost looking forward to a second season of it, maybe a bit more. Maybe I don't know why that sounds a bit weird.
That does sound weird.
I think all of us thought it was a well-acted, well-scripted, well-crafted TV show.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, it wasn't my favourite, but I think all of those things apply. I thought the characters were good, the acting was good. It was great, and I like the fact that Moon Knight had these different characters when he was a superhero as well. The fact there was the guy in the suit, and it was I just really like that kind of quirkiness as well. It was very quirky.
I think my favourite, I love things that you don't know what's reality, what's real, what's not real. I always love that about any kind of storytelling.
Is 4 Men in a Wormhole real? That's
is it real? We've got people wondering, what's happened to their life if they've got this far through the show.
Simon, I really like your background, so I'd like us to move on to the Suicide Squad, and it's Peacemaker as opposed to the Pacemaker, right?
Yeah, Peacemaker as opposed to Pacemaker. Yeah, so we've already talked about a sort of that sort of violent genre of superhero shows, and that is what Peacemaker is. It's sort of very, very violent and rude and adult. And it was recommended to me by someone at work. They said, the conversation was, have you seen Peacemaker? No. You've got to watch Peacemaker, but you've got to watch the Suicide Squad first, because the Suicide Squad sets up the Peacemaker. And so for those of you that can't remember, there was a movie about 5 years ago, maybe it was even more than that, which was, I think, called Suicide Squad, which was the
then there's the Suicide Squad,
and then this is the Suicide Squad. So they're different movies, but feature sort of many of the same characters. So sort of Margot Robbie's in there as Harley Quinn, and there's a few others, and some people die. But anyway, so I watched the Suicide Squad because I had to watch Peacemaker, and I wasn't expecting it to be that good because I don't think it had great reviews. But actually, it was a lot of fun. There wasn't much in the way of a storyline, but it was a really, really fun movie, and it's got some it's got a pretty good cast, including Idris Elba, and even Sylvester Stallone is in there as that whale shark thing that you can see in the picture behind me. For those of you watching on YouTube,
I had no idea that was Sylvester.
That's Sylvester Stallone. You can see it looks like him a little bit.
Which one is Peacemaker? Is it the one with the yellow t-shirt or the red?
That's the guy on the left. That's Peacemaker.
It's John Cena.
John Cena, with the red t-shirt, right? Okay.
Yeah. So go and watch Suicide Squad, because you've got to watch Suicide Squad to watch Peacemaker.
Sorry, Suicide Squad or the Suicide Squad?
Sorry, the Suicide Squad. Don't worry about the one before if you haven't seen that. That doesn't really matter. Watch the Suicide Squad. It's a fun movie. It's not brilliant. And then go and watch Peacemaker, which is brilliant. It's very, very good.
What's it on streaming wise?
Oh, that's a good question. What did I watch it on?
So I can't find it. Is it on? It's not on Disney, is it?
I think I might have watched it on Sky, like Sky Catch Up or Sky Cinema or something.
That's why I can't watch it. Okay.
I don't remember, but it'll come around though to the different streaming channels. So when you see it come on, go and watch it, because the Peacemaker is a very, very funny.
Is the Peacemaker violent. Also on Sky? Are they both on Sky?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's me out for a while.
But it'll get to, it won't go on Disney obviously because it's DC, but it might get onto Amazon Prime or Netflix. Lots and lots of fun, the Peacemaker, and I think there's going to be another season. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Nice, violent, adult, rude superheroes having sex. It's like quite similar to The Boys in that sense.
Thanks. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, Simon. I'm going to talk about something I've watched, and I think you've all watched it too, which is good about Star Trek, which is Picard. And Picard, I know all of us liked Picard. I think we all liked Picard the first season. I see heads nodding. I see a thumb up. Season 2, I enjoyed it. I like the fact it started very briefly on a starship. They keep teasing us that Picard's going to be back on a proper starship. Hopefully with season 3 we'll get there. It quickly turned into a time Trev, back in time, Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home remake. But that wasn't all bad, because they did some homage to Star Trek 4, including the scene with the punk rocker with the music that's too loud. And so there are elements of that I really, really like. I love the fact they brought back Q. But I also thought at the end of the day, I didn't think the story was that good.
Did you think it was better than Series 1? Because I liked Series 1, but I got halfway through it and I think I stopped watching it. And actually, I think I only then took me, I got back into it. And then I thought Series 2, I watched it all the way through and quite enjoyed it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you made a point. I'm going to answer your question with an answer that has nothing to do with your question, but you've made a good point for asking the question. Is season 2 seemed to have very little to do with season 1, and season 1 ended on having discovered this new species, and the Federation is suddenly suddenly at war with the Romulans again. It's actually the stakes were massive at the end of season 1. Season 2, it's like none of that happened. Tal, I saw your hand go up.
I preferred season 2 to season 1. But then having said that, I liked both of them a lot. So I wouldn't say that I didn't enjoy season 1. I really enjoyed season 1, and I enjoyed season 2 even more, I think. I like the fact it wasn't on a starship. I think it just felt kind of, right for. I thought it was quite a good story. I thought it was a good story. I thought they tied in the whole Borg thing quite well, and they dealt with all that. And I think the fact they had to go back and adjust the timeline and all this sort of stuff, or try and save the timeline rather. I thought it was a clever premise, and I thought the acting was really good. I can't remember. You're going to tell me, but I can't remember the name of the actress that played the Borg, not the Borg Queen, but the other. What's her name?
Jerry Ryan.
No, he means the woman who becomes the Borg.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Jurati, whatever her name is. Yeah.
She was brilliant.
She was brilliant, really good, and I thought that was just a brilliant, and everything, even down to the singing scenes, and I just thought it was really clever how they kind of, her character just went through such a transformation.
Yeah, no, she was a great actress. Her part was really, really good. Simon, I saw your hand go up.
Well, I've always got something to say about Star Trek. I really enjoyed it. Actually, I thought it was a very, very good, very, very good season. I remember. I think the first couple of episodes were the best. I'm not saying it got bad, but I think the first couple of episodes were best. The first episode in particular was exciting, and it's like, there's something different going on here. As you say, it didn't pick up on last season, which initially I was bothered about, but then I wasn't. But episode 2, which I think is the one where they're all suddenly back in time and they work out where they are and what's going on and who they are, and then they come together and then they have to escape. And like, I watched that episode and I remember thinking that is one of the best episodes of Star Trek I've ever seen. Going back on every single series.
Can we fantastic. Just pause? Can you say that again? Because that is a big deal.
That was one of the best episodes of Star Trek I've ever seen.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
And I'm not. Yeah, so I'm not saying it got worse after that, but that was the highlight. That was such an exciting episode. And then good. I thought the story was good. I thought it was good character development. And then I like how it ended. I like what they did with Picard and Q, and had that sort of connection at the end, and sort of the old foes but actually friends, and we had a nice cameo, and hopefully we're going to see a bit more from Wesley Crusher. I thought that was great. I thought that was a very nice moment. And then there was a bit of a weird ending in that suddenly we're back into their present with an altered Borg. So I don't know what they've done there to the timeline.
Well, no, they've done nothing, because I've read the thing. The script writers have said this is where I really liked the interplay with Q and Picard, and even though it might seem a bit going around the horses or around the houses, I think is what it's saying. Q made Picard go on this adventure to discover stuff about himself, all because Q loved him. I get that, and I think it might seem like far-fetched, but I get that. It was sentimental, it was lovely. The whole thing about the Borg, though, which was the vehicle, because he needed Picard to save the world, right? But she literally has not been. I mean, the original Borg is still there. They've said the timeline is not affected, so everything that's happened with the Borg that is still going to happen or has happened, and she literally has been incubated, keeping clear of everything, just waiting for this moment. That's what the writers have said, and that
Oh,
is,
right.
But she can't have been steering clear of everything because she's got a ship and her technologies.
I'm just telling you what the
evolved
writer said. So she is not impacted supposedly on the Borg as we know. So the Borg has still killed billions of people and decimated systems and all the rest of it because she didn't want. She just stayed away until this moment.
Right. Okay. That's weird because I thought the whole premise was she convinced Jerry Wright, 7 of 9, that we could be a better Borg.
Yes,
that was the point. That we've got 400 years to be a better Borg.
Yeah, no, she is a better Borg.
But she's just done nothing for 400 years or whatever.
She's not done anything to try and affect the other Borg.
Which you think that might be the best thing she could have done with her?
That's my point.
Yeah, that there is a flaw in all that. That's the problem, isn't it? I think
the point is that
it doesn't fit. Yeah, very well.
It doesn't fit. The fact the writers have had to come out and make that statement is because they ended up creating this farcical story, and then at the end of it, they went, "Oh, maybe that screws everything else up." I would just say it didn't really matter in effect.
Oh, so she sort of came out of the shower and she said, "I've just been asleep for the last 400 years." Like, the actress name we were looking for was Alison Pill, who played Agnes Durati.
Good job to give her a shout out because she deserves that for sure.
Yeah,
but she's not in season 3. She's already said she's not in season 3. So once again, whatever season 3 is about, it's like season 2 didn't happen.
Right? Well, including most of the cast aren't returning. I think they've already said because it's going to be the Next Generation cast back into it, which is a shame because I really like some of those characters. I liked Agnes. I really liked the
captain, the guy.
The guy whose name I forget. But he was in. I've seen him in some other things as well, and I think he's a great actor, and I think he played that role really, really well. So it'd be a shame. It's a shame that we probably won't see him again. But
there we go. So, and lastly, Adam, you have actually literally gone back in time.
I have. And I went back in time to 1997 to watch a movie called Starship Troopers, which is one of those movies that which I was aware of, but I'd never seen it. So I felt kind of guilty that I'd never seen it. I did try and read the book because there's a 1960s novel of the same name that it's based on. And a couple of years ago, I can't remember now, I did try and read the book. I found it was very stuffy, couldn't get on with it. I didn't really finish it. I think it was like 1959 the book was first out. Anyway, I went to watch Starship Troopers and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a brilliant movie, really enjoyed it. And actually, I just thought it was a lot of fun. I thought if I had seen that in 1997, I probably would be saying, that's one of my most favourite movies. I think it would have been up there as one of my favourite movies. Wow. But it was great, really good. And it's the same director, the director of Total Recall, which is an awesome film, RoboCop. But what else? He's done some other more random films in addition to that. But yeah, I really loved it.
Where can we watch it?
I'm pretty sure I watched it on Netflix. It was either Netflix or it was on, it might have been Amazon. Maybe it was Amazon. But,
I watched it back in the day on a thing called a VHS cassette.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched it more than once, actually. I thought it was I remember it was like a go-to trashy space. It's a very bit 1950s almost style B-movie. And it's just really good rubbish, but really good. And it's got the mean Marine Sergeant Major in it.
Yes. So the book, the novel, is kind of credited with creating military sci-fi. So that subgenre of like space marines and going to war on it was kind of. I'm not saying the movie did it first, but the book certainly I think was one of the first books to do it. So yeah, I liked it. It was kind of. I thought it was just really enjoyable, more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be.
How's the effects? I haven't watched it in years. How have the effects stood up?
I thought they stood up okay, but I don't know whether sometimes because you can get into I was there in the 90s and watched lots of 90s films, so you can see normal. I don't know whether my boys watched it would go, that's just ridiculous. I mean, there's certainly some questions about this planet of insects, how they were actually even impacting Earth from where they were, I don't know. And why we just didn't go in and nuke them. Why we sent in ground troops in a kind of World War I style, I have no idea. Well, we could have just nuked all of them and then be done with it. But, you know, it wouldn't have made us such a good story, I suppose.
And from what I remember, there's this slightly fascist Nazi element to it. So you as the viewer almost, even though it seems like a really simple B-style movie, there's a bit of internal conflict from what I remember, because you're cheering these guys on, but it's a right-wing, quite fascist government in terms of how it operates and who they're representing.
Yeah, there's a bit of propaganda, and on Earth, your citizenship depends on, there's two tiers of citizenship. I can't remember what they call it. You're a citizen or something else. I can't remember it. And you can only become a full citizen and have voting rights if you do military service. So the military service is to go and, you know, blast the bugs. And if you do that, you're likely just to die, basically. But if you don't die, you come back a citizen. Otherwise, you're just like a person. I can't remember how they described it, but yeah,
second-class citizen. And yeah, so I remember there was a sort of a dark side to it, which obviously the film doesn't explore massively. But
it doesn't, but it is kind of sort of there in a sort of alludes to it, but doesn't really explore it, I'd say.
So, and for those who don't know, and I've never watched any of them, but there have been many sequels.
There has been. I've heard that as well. I haven't seen the original. I haven't seen any other ones either.
And in terms of famous people in it, I think the only person who was famous was it Denise Richards? Is that the right person?
She is in it. Also, though, there's Neil Patrick Harris is in it.
Oh yes.
He's going to be.
And then the Sergeant Major is quite famous. He's the voice of Sam Fisher and has been in many other sort of movies playing a tough guy type thing.
I'm just looking at the pictures. I think was she one of the Golden Girls? So I'm just looking at it on Google.
Oh, that's right. So, sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
No, that's all I got. Go on.
Because the director, so he did, as I say, Total Recall, and he did Starship Troopers, and he did RoboCop, which are all films I love. So, but then he also did sort of Basic Instinct and Showgirls, and he's got this kind of sort of almost sort of this thing about sort of slightly pornographic, very explicit movies that he also did. And Starship Troopers has this kind of almost, it's not pornographic, but there's the attractiveness of the cast are a big part of how he sets it up. So it's sort of like, it's dated in that way because you just wouldn't have a film presented like that nowadays. So I think that in that way it's aged, but yeah, it's like you would never see Total, Basic Instinct. It's just not a film that would get made these days, I don't think. But yeah, and a bit some aspects of Starship Troopers. I think there's like a shower scene where the boys are showering with the girls. It's a really unnecessary scene. It just seems just a scene so you can see gorgeous, attractive people naked. That just is the only reason to have it in. So I just think, this day and age, you wouldn't have it.
There is a demand for that kind of thing. Dina Meyer was in it, and also, interestingly enough, Clancy Brown, who I'm pretty sure is in Highlander.
Oh, really?
As in the baddie. I'm pretty sure he was in Highlander.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I thought he was the guy who played the baddie in Highlander, the first one.
Lambert, wasn't it?
Christopher Lambert played Highlander.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you've got the guy who I've just forgotten his name. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
He was Victor Kruger, Highlander.
Victor Kruger, yeah. Okay, I thought he just played Victor Kruger, and that was like that's the only thing he did.
No, he did other things as well. Oh, he also plays the bad head policeman in the Shawshank Redemption. Not policeman, a prison guard. So no, he's got a very good. If you look at his,
he's brilliant in Highlander.
So nice. So you watched Starship Troopers. So on that bombshell, that I think is a really good summary of all the many things we've been watching since we last did a show. I think I mentioned before we started recording, I also eventually caught up with The Matrix Resurrections, which I'll quickly just say I thought it was excellent. It is essentially just a love story but I thought was excellent and also quite amusing at times. Beautifully filmed. And is there any other tidbits that anyone has been watching, about to watch, that you're excited about for the next episode?
Well, do you think, is it because we haven't haven't recorded for a while, which why there's so much stuff to watch? Or is there just loads of really good sci-fi on at the moment? I kind of feel there's a lot of really good stuff on at the moment.
I think there's lots of good quality sci-fi, and as I said, because of this growth of streaming, sci-fi has always been a huge genre. We know that. Just look at books and comics, right? It's always been a massive genre, and the only reason it never got traction in traditional mainstream broadcast, where there were only ever a few narrow channels for it, is because even though there's a huge audience, getting them all together at the same time in the same place to watch something is really quite difficult. So if you're trying to sell advertising, it's really tough. But with Disney Plus and Paramount Plus and Amazon, there's a place for everything, and we can all watch it when it suits us, so you can get the return on investment. So I think the audience is massive. Which you just look at the sci-fi section in the bookshop, and I look at the conventions, right?
We're not niche, is what you're saying.
I don't think sci-fi really is niche, actually.
No.
But what it is it's actually a very big global audience. It's a huge global audience.
That does upset me, because I see myself as a geek, and obviously as a geek you like stuff that's not mainstream. And basically all the stuff that as a kid I was really geeky to be into is now just mainstream. So I don't know where that leaves me.
But see, that's what's changed, right?
It leaves me lost.
That's what's changed. It's not geeky. It's not for the few anymore. Sci-fi is not for the few anymore. And I think that's largely what Marvel have done. Have made it so widespread and so popular that all of these other things can sprout out of it, whether they're Marvel shows or not. And I think
Marvel. I'm sure Marvel's made a massive impact on that. But I mean, I seem to remember Star Wars. I seem to remember Terminator being a fairly mainstream film.
Yeah. If you look at the top 20
but girls wouldn't go to see it. Girls wouldn't go to see those movies.
No, but if you
Nikki loves that. Nikki loves the Terminator films.
Yeah, but your wife's cool. Most aren't.
If you look at the top 20 earning films, a huge percentage of them are sci-fi or fantasy movies. And it's always been a massive, massive genre. And it's also been something that movies have embraced from day one, because it's something they could do. Like, look at Metropolis. Is that the film with Metropolis? I'm
yes,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't let's not take all the glory away from the Marvel and what they've achieved. Of course, they've achieved huge, amazing things, and they have pushed things on. But it didn't start with them. It didn't.
I thought you were going to say, let's not take away the credit for 4 Men in a Wormhole. We're not just jumping on the bandwagon here and talking about sci-fi.
No, absolutely not. In fact, if it wasn't for us, none of it would have happened. Even if you watch probably some episode of Picard probably put it all in place and met us without knowing it.
Yeah,
we only came together. And
I've heard Kevin Feige say that he often listens to 4 Men in a Wormhole, and
it's a barometer, isn't it?
That's what I hear. So on that bombshell, that 4 Men in a Wormhole was a barometer for sci-fi and Kevin Feige. We're going to bring this episode to an end. Charles Silverman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Lovely to see you, chaps.
Lovely to see you, Simon. Cohen, thank you.
See you guys.
And Adam Leach, thank you very much.
It's been absolutely pleasure, as always.
As always, and this is me, Stephen Govish, your ever-boarding host, thanking you for listening to 4 Men in a Wormhole.
4 Men in a Wormhole!